already mentioned in the Google Forms.
So one, hastiness in solving questions leading to missed details. When it comes to hastiness in solving questions, Nihit, like why exactly is that happening though? Because one of the things I mentioned was that initial phase has to be just focus on accuracy, not so much on timing.
I understand that you have already mentioned these things in the class itself, but there's something in the background to it that I gave my first attempt on 18th Jan, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So when I got to it, then I scored 555 on GMAT Focus. Okay. There's a background to it also. That I was preparing for civil services. I gave 2 prelims. I cleared both of them, and I was able to clear mains exam. Okay. But the quant section is very easy in prelims. It's very easy, like you can do it blindfolded. Okay. But ever since then when I started preparing for this, I prepared for 3 weeks for this exam. I only did the official guides, and then I just gave this. I thought that I was able to do it because I also attempted the mocks, and the 2 mocks that they give with the exam. I attended that, and I took them, and I scored around 650 and 670.
The past is traumatic for most people. Yeah. To be honest, like there are a lot of people I know who have taken the exam 5 times. Like you are still coming from, let's say, not hitting your mark in UPSC, and then kind of taking one exam on GMAT, which you honestly didn't really prepare that hard for. Like doing official guide and maybe a couple of mocks, is not the ideal preparation strategy, but you basically just took it. But I believe there is still, because your success or failure on one exam does not determine your success or failure on the other exam. Something I've noticed in my own experience, like I wasn't good with studies back in 10th. I have a mediocre percentage at best. In 12th, I don't have a great percentage. In my college exams, I don't have a great percentage. But the reason on GMAT I went on to score 99th percentile on multiple occasions was primarily because this was more to my liking. It is more about reasoning, right? It is more about comprehension. It's not about memorizing. And anything that made me memorize, like college had exams where I had to memorize, school and 10th and 12th, it was all about memorizing. I wasn't good at that. But in this particular section, I could see that without having to memorize, if I can use my understanding, I can do well. So it was more to my liking, and that's why I got hooked onto it and I went on to score well. So that's why I'm saying, like, what has happened previously in UPSC, for whatever reason you've not been able to crack it, at least don't let that in some way impact your performance on GMAT.
Since I am an IITian,
there is a lot to the GMAT than the 2 to 3 weeks of preparation that you did. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like say we had our center in Delhi very close to the IIT Delhi campus, right? I have, like, since 2013, I have trained countless number of, right? And one thing I can tell you about this is that although they are confident in their quant and they have a good foundation, but it is not enough to get to a perfect score right off the bat. You would notice that you can get a perfect score in quant even after making 3 to 4 mistakes. But the GMAT's scoring algorithm changed in the last 4 years to an extent you can't get a perfect score even if you get 1 mistake. Because you're a student and you are trying to work out on the exam on your own, you possibly would not have known how to recalibrate your score. Irrespective of what you scored, whole notion of spending three weeks at something and not excelling at it, and that is bogging you down, is something that you have to look at it in like absolute honesty and ask yourself, like, was this my best shot that I'm not proud of or embarrassed about? Correct. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like if I go out and I'm basically due for a presentation and I know I haven't prepared, I will feel bad about not preparing well rather than making it about myself that I am a bad presenter, because it's been around 11 years I've been training for this. Some people have failed their CA exam. Some people have failed UPSC. Some people have not been able to do well on GMAT for 4 or 5 attempts. And all of these people have this mental baggage that sometimes keeps them from really putting themselves out on the GMAT with everything in mind. But that's the whole point. Like, and they understand it. After you kind of think about it rationally, you'll realize that, okay, there is absolutely no reason for you to get flustered about it.
When I realized that it is taking too much time for me, like it's taking 7 to 8 minutes to answer a simple question, then I zone out. I completely zone out of the question. And so then it bugs me and it takes a toll on me that I am unable to do it.
See, zoning out is not a question on competence, right? When you zone out, that's more about focus and
Yeah.
concentration. And it happens especially if in case you are tired after a long day at work when you're trying to do questions. It has happened with me and happens with everyone. My verbal was extremely weak when I began, but because I knew that this is the kind of person I want to be, and I was constantly like thinking about the seniors of mine who went through Stanford and Kellogg. One of them even went to Harvard. So I used to talk to them on a weekly basis just to get that motivation that this is where I see myself in the next 3 to 4 years. And because I knew the kind of effort I'm putting in is shaping me to be that kind of person, it kept pulling me to actually put in the effort in the right direction. But there were a lot of moments, Nihit, when I could have just simply given up, and I could have said, I might as well do something else over there. But the fact that here on the GMAT, everything is so strategic that if your strategy is not on point, you'll falter. If it's on point, you'll actually succeed. You'll notice that your rate of progress becomes exponentially faster, provided you're able to get through that initial phase where you're just trying to absorb information and apply it. Once that absorption and application gets better, wherever you are at 60%, 70%, 80% accuracy, you will find it to skyrocket to 95% in a matter of 1.5 to 2 weeks. So it's not a tough exam, but it's a very tricky exam because, as I said, there are four things that you have to take into account, right? One is concepts, then it is approach, then it's application, then it's timing. And once you've focused on these four things in the sequential order, then you start with your mock tests. Singular target. Singular target should be no matter what happens, I need to do such good justice to what Manan is giving me as homework that if tomorrow he asks me to actually take a session on this class, let's say you've attended assumptions and evaluate class, and next week, if I have to take a class on this particular topic, I should be able to take a class on it because that's the level of confidence I have in this topic now.
And there was one more thing that I will be switching back to private sector if I go through with this. That's also something, yeah.
No, that's fine. I think, see, as I said, like I came from, consulting into education, and then I basically branched out into technology with some of the startups I worked on previously. Like, change is scary for everyone, but the idea is that it's about the potential to grow, right? How hard you're putting in the effort. Like you are in a government sector right now, and let's assume that there is a parallel universe in which you are actually in an MBB or a top 3 consulting firm, and let's say you're putting the same effort in both the places. Like, which is that vehicle that will get you to your target with the same amount of effort? GMAT is honestly a great gateway, and I'm not saying this just because I teach it. I have seen people's lives transform in ways you can't even believe, and that's why I'm so serious about like not scaling it to a point where I can't give attention to everyone, right? So for me, it is more from passion than from, that's basically the main motivation for me to do this rather than doing it from the financial standpoint, because I know the kind of turnarounds I've seen just because of this one exam, and my life is a prime example. My life itself is a prime example because I know that if I had done everything that I did, but I did not take the GMAT, I know I would not be in the place that I am in right now. How are the classes and all going on for you?
They're excellent. They're excellent. I am actually learning many things actually, because with the verbal I was very weak. Obviously, I'm from an engineering background, so yes.